Okay, good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, the 11th of
Exposing hidden
November 2025.
realities. It was kind of like
So
an earthquake.
it's
Everybody felt
morning in
it.
Accra
Holding
here.
the powerful to account and
Let's
telling the
listen to news.
truth
Every
they
morning we
don't
normally
want
listen
told.
to
It's
BBC.
astounding that
Every
anybody
morning we
could
listen to
get away with it. World of Secrets.
BBC
To listen,
to
search
be
World of
updated of
Secrets
what is
online
happening.
or wherever you get your BBC podcasts.
So join me. Let's go to news.
Of the BBC World Service and assignment. I'm Ellie House and I live in Montana in the United States, looking at ranches, rodeos, and public land. This is the story of a surprising battle raging on the American land. Hello, it's Tuesday on the BBC World Service. Who am I and where we are? Thanks for joining us.
Just a few weeks ago, Syria's president was designated a terrorist by the United States. Now, he's just finished meeting President Trump in the White House, where the two were photographed shaking hands. We'll speak to a Syrian in the US who met Ahmed al-Shara.
Elsewhere, the BBC is facing the threat of a billion-dollar lawsuit from President Trump as a crisis over alleged bias continues.
We'll hear from a charity working in Dnipro in Ukraine, where another round of Russian drones has hit residential buildings this week.
And we've got the story of a Chinese woman who's been living a lavish lifestyle in London after police say she bought cryptocurrency now worth billions of pounds using funds stolen from thousands of Chinese pensioners. We'll have more on that after a bulletin of the latest world news. This is Danielle Yawowiecka with the BBC News. Hello. The US Senate has voted in favour of a compromise funding package to temporarily reopen the government. Republicans won the required 60 votes after several Democratic senators switched sides to support them, even without guarantees on healthcare funding. Here's David Willis.
The Senate vote, coming on the 41st day of the government shutdown, is a major step towards ending a political impasse that has led to cutbacks in federal food aid programs, flight delays, and more than 1 million employees working without pay. Democrats have been demanding an extension of healthcare subsidies that are due to expire in December. In the end, Republicans' resistance to that won out. The capitulation of 8 Democratic senators has infuriated many of their colleagues, who labelled the move a betrayal and has led to calls for the removal of the party's leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, for failing to keep his caucus together.
The United States says Syria is joining the global coalition to defeat Islamic State jihadists and is resuming diplomatic relations with Washington. The announcement came hours after Donald Trump met the Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara at the White House. Less than a year ago, Mr. Shara led Islamist forces that ousted the Assad regime. The Indian capital Delhi has been put on high alert following a huge blast in a car near the historic Red Fort. At least 8 people were killed and 20 others were injured. Archana Shukla is in Delhi.
Investigative agencies have yet not said whether it was a deliberate blast or if they have identified a suspect. We understand that the senior security officials are going to have a meeting in just some time from now, and more details may emerge post that. Security agencies have said they're not ruling out any possibilities. They're looking at all angles in the investigation. It's the anti-terror team that's also on the ground to figure out. Red alert has been put across the capital city here and some of the big tourist places across India.
A Chinese woman will be sentenced in London later for her role in a Bitcoin scam worth billions of dollars. Qian Jimin was convicted of trying to launder more than 60,000 Bitcoins, now worth around $6.5 billion. Tony Han reports.
Qian's company encouraged Chinese people to invest in cryptocurrency, but police now say it was a scam. The scheme collapsed in 2017 and she fled to the UK, bringing a stash of Bitcoin with her. She tried to buy an expensive house in London, bringing her to the attention of the police there. She was finally arrested last year and has admitted laundering money. The High Court in London will decide where the Bitcoin stash should go, with reports suggesting the UK government will seek to retain some of it. Victims in China believe they should be paid back.
You're listening to the World News from the BBC. Voting is underway in Iraq to choose a new parliament at a pivotal moment, with Iran and the US vying for influence. By convention, the Prime Minister is always a Shiite Muslim, the parliamentary speaker will be Sunni, and the largely ceremonial presidency goes to a Kurd. The current Prime Minister, Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, who claims to have secured a period of relative stability, is hoping to win a second term. Ecuador's president says 300 high-risk inmates have been moved to a new maximum security prison a day after more than 30 prisoners were killed in a riot in the south. President Daniel Noboa said crime organizations wanted to challenge Ecuador and start a new campaign, and that the country had responded with action. The United Nations has warned that millions of refugees face a harsh winter ahead, with dwindling humanitarian aid available as freezing temperatures set in across the northern hemisphere. The UN Refugee Agency is seeking to raise funds for vital winter support, as Temesgen Debesai reports.
Since the fall of the Assad regime last December, over 1 million Syrian refugees have returned home. Concurrently, 2.2 million Afghans returned from Pakistan and Iran, often with limited resources and facing conditions worsened by 2 earthquakes. Meanwhile, Russian strikes on energy infrastructure in Ukraine have left many there without heat. With cuts to government funding limiting its resources, the UN Refugee Agency is appealing to private donors for $35 million for heating, blankets, and medicine for people in these 3 countries alone.
The British government has announced plans to phase out scientific experiments on animals, allowing them only in exceptional circumstances. The UK aims to cut testing numbers by expanding the use of non-animal alternatives, such as lab-grown tissue, computer modelling and artificial intelligence. BBC News.
Thank you very much for that bulletin. Hello, you're with Newsday from the BBC World Service with Priya Rai and Rob Young. Thanks for being with us today. Coming up over the next half an hour, you will hear stories from Syria, from the United States and Ukraine. We'll also get the latest on Donald Trump's legal threats to the BBC. Nick Marsh on our business desk will be looking at the story of a woman said to have bought cryptocurrency now worth billions of dollars using funds stolen from thousands of Chinese pensioners. As always, your thoughts are welcome on our stories. Send them to +44 77 86 20 50 85.
For the Syrian president to be welcomed into the heart of the American presidency is a big deal when you recognize the journey he has taken to get there. At their meeting in the White House, Donald Trump described Ahmed al-Shara as a strong leader, the same man who, until recently, was designated a terrorist by the US government, and the same man who is also a former al-Qaeda commander.
Developing between the US and Syria. It's hard for Syrians to trust any leadership at this stage. They went through a lot since 2011, since the war erupted.
So people who got our cuckoo,
is somebody who
got
is
our
willing.
cuckoo right here. What is right here? You can see the background. Got our cuckoo here. Our porridge. So we are going back.
Met him in April. It was a very frank, open discussion about many issues. I'm sure you will be discussing. And seeing what he did since April of 2025, few months into now, made me feel more comfortable. That doesn't mean we don't want to deal with the trust and verify. We should continue. As Syrian people, we have to keep that in mind. If we see things we don't like, we need to challenge it. and doors are open for challenges at this stage, and that's why I feel comfortable.
But there have been a series of killings of minority communities in Syria, one of the very things he vowed to not happen under his tenure. What would you say to that?
What took place was very sad for every Syrian who believes in New Syria. I still believe that the government is able to move forward with their promises, especially with the committees that they have actually put together by allowing the UN to come into both areas and do their own investigation. Amnesty International was able to come in. None of these reputable organizations were able to actually step a foot into Syria during Assad regime. And that's why I feel that there is a change that's going to happen. There will be more challenges. I don't think we're done, but I do see that accountability will take place at some point during the next few months.
When it comes to Syria's relationship with America, can you put into context and quantify how much of a big deal it is for a Syrian president to be visiting the White House, but also somebody who has had links to Al-Qaeda, the very movement that flew planes into the Twin Towers on 9/11 of 2001?
This is, it's almost like a fairy tale. I'm not sure anybody who has been involved in the Syrian crisis can actually look at this or say that I predicted what's going to happen. It's amazing what's going on. I see two pragmatic people, President Trump and al-Shara, coming together from totally different sides.